so much. This morning at the 9 o'clock service, that song was so perfect. The great storm is over, but it has a double meaning this morning because at the 9 o'clock service, if you know, Storm King had his lower leg amputated several years ago. He walked in with his prosthesis with a cane. Oh my God. The storm is over. I was so thrilled for him. So thrilled. He said, I can only walk 100 yards, but I'm getting there. It's like, yes, yay, God. All right, the topic this morning is, am I there yet? Well, what does that mean? Am I there yet? Are you there yet? I don't know. It's in a spiritual setting, though, when we ask that, it's, are you enlightened yet? And I might be halfway there. I don't know. It's really hard to say. How do you know when you get there? But what does it really matter is the point. What does it really matter? Because the truth is our higher self has blessed us with this life and is our spiritual support, and we don't have to prove anything to God. We really don't. We're already an extension of the highest spiritual force there is, infinite intelligence. That gives me great comfort every day. But then the ego says, well, wait a minute, you're not doing enough. You should be doing more, striving. Because if you're not striving to achieve more, you're unworthy. Of what? I mean, this is an ego. What do I really have to achieve? So we've been using Wayne Dyer's book, Your Sacred Self, this past couple months, and he shares a lot about the many years he was striving to write the best books, give the best talks, do the best workshops. And he identifies some typical behaviors that go along with that, to question if we're on that treadmill of striving. He asks, is our happiness based on a job or some sense of power in our life? Do we have to have an external symbol like a car or great clothes? Do we tend to do everything quickly to get her done? Do we assign a price tag to what we do? Like this is really valuable and this isn't valuable. Do we find fault with everyone? Kind of a habit in the culture today, don't you think? Do we have to be busy to feel validated? Are we unable to spend quiet time alone? So those are little indicators that maybe we're striving too much instead of being what we're meant to be. I catch myself in one of these every once in a while, like special project, gotta get her done, board meeting, gotta get ready, gotta. And the best thing to do is just stop and take some breaths and just take a moment of peace, releasing that stress, letting the divine replenish me. And so when I pace myself, I find that I actually feel more centered and productive. And I like that place. I really like that place. Because for years I worked in the pulp and paper industry, and I had to strive every day. The deadlines were so intense. And it took me a long time to connect the dots, that every time I took a couple days off, I got sick. I mean, really sick. I'd end up in the hospital to have an MRI. I mean, it was that quick. And so the striving was obviously not good for me. And when I left that job, I figured I added another 20 years to my life. So I was glad of that. But Dyer is right. When we lighten up and we get back into balance, we feel more vibrant. So I give up some projects that I'd like to do. I think when I really, truly retire for the third time, then that's when I'll do that special project. Yeah, I know, striving, isn't that? It's interesting to think about it. But I'm also on a divine mission. We're fully supported by the universe, and what Dyer calls this experience is when we arrive, when we figure we've arrived. So striving versus arriving. To go from striving to feeling I've arrived. Yes, I'm there. Now, our higher self doesn't expect us to be lazy, of course not. But at the same time, arriving is such a wonderful place because there's two aspects of arriving. We're in the present moment. We're not in the past, we're not in the future, we're in the present moment, the safest place in the world. And we exhibit love to all those around us. We are just love in action, the two aspects of having arrived. Dyer writes that when the time comes, when we make our transition to the great place in the sky, who knows, we won't be on trial. We won't be asked, did you do enough? Did you do enough with that life I gave you? No. Our mission is this, to serve and be love. That's it. It's very simple. To serve others and to be love. I opened that book yesterday, The Power of Love by Fran Grace. I heard it was really good, and I encourage you to get it. It's a really big book, but she spent years going around the world talking to different cultures about what love meant and was it powerful for them. Every chapter in this book, she highlights some famous person and how they found love to be the biggest power that they had. And it's wonderful. One of the chapters was my favorite person, Dr. David Hawkins. Oh, he wrote Power versus Force. Fabulous book. And he writes that spiritual practices done with sincerity have a beneficial effect. And the effect comes from the purity of our heart and the intention of our energy, love. He created a map of consciousness. It's a huge map that starts at the base of shame and self-hatred, and it goes up as our consciousness expands. We find our mission of being love, and we get to the highest level of love. It's the highest level of consciousness that we can attain. The outer form doesn't matter, it's the inner. It's the inner. So even a smile to someone, or like a hug with Storm this morning. He just started crying when I hugged him. He just felt so elated. It's not what we're doing. It's the heart we put into everything that we do. So my intention every morning when I drive into town is I focus on love. Sometimes it's joy, but most often it's love. Because 2 mornings a week, you may not know, I've been invited to be a volunteer chaplain at a crisis center. And when I go there, there are people in crisis, and my intention is to walk in and love. So they have a space where people can come and talk to me, or just say, who are you? What do chaplains do? Or to ask for a prayer. I did one last week for a wonderful lady. She was being sent back out into the community, and she was scared, and I did a prayer wrapping her in a big bubble of love, God's love. I got done and she went, hot damn, that was a good prayer. I just had to laugh. It was just her way of expressing it, but it was like, I didn't expect that. And so I have a little lending library. I found a little shelf, and I bring in spiritual books and Science of Mind magazines, and every day I go there Tuesday morning, Thursday morning. Some books are gone. Some books are laying on the floor half open. I never really know, but they're being used a lot. And Thursday, this one gal came up to me. She was being sent back out into the world, and she had this shopping bag from Holiday Market. And she said, Chaplain, I'd like to give you this. Would you take it? And I said, oh, that's so sweet. And she said, so bring in more books. It's the simplest things. It's just the simplest things. It's so nice. So Dyer has some ideas of how we can achieve this mission of love. And the first one is to experience nothingness. I didn't expect that. Nothingness. To sit here in the silence and let us be empty. Just empty. Because out of that comes these divine ideas. I don't know if you've experienced that, but it's awesome. Divine ideas, feelings. But we came out of nothingness as human beings. I find that fascinating. So I was thinking about this nothingness, and I thought, I wish I was at the Big Bang if that's really what caused it all. But what if there was this painter, this beautiful lady who was a painter, long hair, flowing gowns, and she had her palette with every color in the universe in it, and she had this brush, and she just flung the paint around, and stars appeared. And then she took her fat brush and she just went across the sky and galaxies appeared. And then she took her little tiny brush and billions of human beings appeared, each one different. A different nose, a different fingers, a different chin, different eyes, different feet. Isn't that fascinating? We're all different. I'm going to ask Shari Wyndham, our watercolor specialist, if she might be able to express that. I'd love to see that. It's such a beautiful vision in my mind. That's the power of the imagination of God. So this week I was sitting in the office and someone came in and they had this beautiful sweatshirt on. And I said, oh, what a beautiful sweatshirt. And in my mind flash back 40 years to when I worked on Bainbridge Island west of Seattle. In the fashion world at that time, sweatshirts only came in gray. It was a sweatshirt. You wore it at a fitness place, and it was gray. Well, there was an agriculture supply store on Bainbridge Island called Bay, it was in the Bay, Bay Hay and Feed, Bay Hay and Feed, cute place. I loved going there because they not only had all the agriculture supplies, but they had a gift shop that was like premier. It was wonderful. All of a sudden, out of the blue, they had this idea. They created sweatshirts in pastel colors. Shock. But they had Bay Hay and Feed right here, and underneath it, depending on the sweatshirt, like this, my favorite was a sheep. Then on the back, it would have 50 sheep all lined up in rows. So if you had a horse, you'd have 50 horses on your back. If you had a duck, anyway, you get the idea. All different colors. People went crazy over these sweatshirts. They were just like flying out the door. And so this morning, yesterday, I went on their website, and they still have a column. Remember when we had those shirts? And it was just like so cool to remember it. And they said thousands of people would wear these shirts all around the world and take pictures of themselves with a Bay Hay shirt in India or something. And they just remembered it well. But it was interesting to think that the whole fashion in sweatshirts changed with farm animals and pastel colors. I just love that story. So number 2 on Dyer's list on how to shift from striving to arriving in our mission of love is to surrender. Surrender to what is. Oh, the ego does not like that. The ego says, wait a minute, you can't do that. You still have 10 more things to do. But we can surrender any belief from the past that's driving us today. Sometimes we have our high school teacher in our mind and going, come on, you're going to achieve. Sometimes it's our parents. It could be anybody who's pushing us, driving us from the past to be more today. And then I was thinking of the old 55 Chevy that we had. Loved that car. But it would be totally impractical today. Not only was it monstrous, but it guzzled gas like crazy, and it was very, very heavy. So since the 55 Chevy days, we've changed our mind about what good, efficient cars are. We've surrendered those old beliefs that, yeah, they're beautiful, but they're not practical today. And it's the same way in honoring ourselves. Are we honoring ourselves based on the past or the present? And so sometimes I think of spirit as not my 55 Chevy, but turning my turning lights on, going blink, 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 blink. Are you paying attention? Are you in the present moment? It's kind of a funny little thing to do. But there's something bigger to be aware of that is trying to communicate with us, just like pastel-colored sweatshirts. What is that we are not being quiet enough to hear, that we're not taking time to be just in the present moment and listen? Dyer likes the image of a boat moving along a calm lake. And you know, when you're moving at a slow pace, there's little waves that come out the back, little waves. And he said those waves are like symbols of the past. Because in a few minutes, they're going to be gone, they're going to calm down, and they won't exist anymore. But it's like monitoring the past when actually it's the driver sitting in the front seat that is the engine to the future. The driver is driving in the present moment to a future destination. Maybe it's just across the lake or something, but if we watch the wake of our past, we're going to miss what's beautiful and enticing to us in the future. Sometimes when things go awry, I know we've had a boat and you'd be driving along and you hear pop, 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 sputter, sputter. If you could stay in the present moment, what we say in that moment is, oh, so this is my challenge. Do you remember that saying from Dr. James and Andrea? I love that. Stay in the present moment. Ah, so this is my challenge. And then we can listen, even if we have to sit and listen or take a walk or breathe in the fresh air of nature. Ah, so this is my challenge. I'm open to divine wisdom. Third on Dyer's list is acceptance. He defines enlightenment as the quiet acceptance of what is. He refuses to be distressed by what might be. Simply, things are the way they are. And I'm sure you've heard the serenity prayer. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Because acceptance doesn't mean we endorse what's going on. It refers to that state of mind when we can look at what's happening, feel peaceful in the moment, and just decide, is this something I can do something about? Or is it just the way it is? It frees us from stress that we have to respond, we have to do something. It gives us more time to listen and to be of help, not only to others, but to ourselves. William Blake referred to acceptance as if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as it is, which is infinite, if we can accept that. I think this is one of the most valuable things we're taught as practitioners and ministers. Sometimes I know people feel that we aren't sympathetic enough or reacting enough to someone's troubles when they come to see us. And we strive to be in that space of serenity. That's the most valuable. But I can't help you if I'm not in that space of serenity, because I'm off on a tangent that isn't spiritual. So we strive to be in that space of serenity, to have the courage to know, here's a prayer I can do for you to help shift the energy of that situation. Or here's something that I can't change, it's the way it is, but I can help you adjust your energy about it, your thoughts about it, your beliefs about it, so that you come to that space of serenity where then you know the best thing to do for yourself. There's a Zen saying that goes like this: if you do understand, things are just as they are. If you don't understand, things are just as they are. Number 4 on his list is awe and bewilderment. This is 4 on the list of achieving our mission of love. When we're striving, we have little time to look at the world around us. But I'll tell you, this is the best time of year to do that with all the flowers in bloom. The grass is so green, they're almost fluorescent. It's the most perfect time to love what we see around it, to feel in awe of it. We have some redwood trees in our yard, and the seeds are only this big when it lets go of some seeds. And I go, how does that happen? How does that happen? This little seed can become a redwood tree. And obviously, there's science to prove exactly how it happens. I like to think it's a miracle. And then I think our bodies are miracles, because think of the millions of cells in our body, and they're all talking to one another. They're all saying, hey, things are going good. No, you better watch out. And they're all trying the best they can to keep us healthy. We have a lot of working parts. And when our body's healthy, we almost forget about it. We just go on. And so when we have a health challenge, it is, so this is my challenge. Not time to freak out. It's to know, so this is my challenge. And the last thing on the list is patience. I'm sure you know when you get impatient. I sure know when I get impatient. And I always know when Paul gets impatient. But it's the ego that wants us to keep going. Go on, keep going, going. And sometimes it's just so darn tiring. It's time to just sit down and have some patience and meditate, contemplate the sacred self. So my favorite place is on our couch in our living room because we live on a lake and we look over at Mount Lassen, and in the morning I spend 20 to 30 minutes there just looking quietly, just looking. And it brings such a wonderful level of peace before I drive into town in the traffic. There's so much road construction anymore. I always wonder how peaceful most of the people are driving in. But it starts my day out well. And no matter what happens during the day, I have a date with Paul every day at 4 o'clock. We play cards. It's called Dummy Rummy. We listen to country music. We talk and share. And then we just relax if I haven't won too many card hands. So there's many ways of finding space to arrive at that place we feel love. I remember Dr. Andrea used to say, because I know she's as busy as Sue and I are, when she felt so busy, some days she would say, I have so many ideas today, I'm just going to sit down and let them pass. That's getting back to arriving. Another way to pause during the pursuit of our day is to turn it over to our sacred self. Take a walk out to the labyrinth, walk around the grounds here, it's so beautiful. One way to just calm us back down. So the question was, am I there yet? Am I enlightened? No, I wouldn't call it that. I'm getting to more being arrived, but there's just days that things happen. But Yogananda said this, seek spiritual riches within, because what you are is much greater than anyone or anything else you have ever yearned for. And Wayne Dwyer wrote, you're never going to get it all because you are already all of it, if we only knew. And so that, my friends, is the challenge. So let's do a prayer about that. Thank you, Judy. Oh, that infinite intelligence that created everything, stars in the sky, cells in our bodies, millions of people, all individually different, had an incredible mind, the most incredible ideas that just unfolded into who we are today. We don't have to go looking for that truth. When we sit in the peace, we know it's true. We know it's true. We know that the love that has created us is meant to continue in our life while we're here. Because when we feel love, we know it is the most powerful energy there is. No need to hoard it, no need to hide it. There is a need by our soul to give it as much as we can, whether it's a smile or an act of kindness. When we do that, we know we have arrived at the secret of why we're here, to give and receive love. It's that simple. And so I give great thanks that we're talking about it today, because there may be a point this week where I'm in traffic and I'm late. I say, no, wait a minute, God. I'm on time every time. On time every time. Trust in the process of life. And when I do, I have to smile. So that's my challenge. I accept it fully as I accept it for you, to always find that place where you can smile, where you can give love and go, ah. That's my challenge today, and I give more.
So I let these words just fill your heart with love, fill your body with a little bit of tingling sensation that, God, I am, God, I am. Because this is the truth about each one of us. And all we can say is, and so it is. Thank you.